Hi there, this is a recording from a webinar with ParkPlay and Nature Moves looking at alternative physical activity offerings in a community setting. We somewhat inevitably forgot to press record at the beginning, so we jump straight into Wildstrong and then we go into ParkPlay. All of the slides are available to download, and if you've got any questions afterwards, please direct them to either ParkPlay or to Nature Moves at Wildstrong. All right, thanks very much.
Activities that actually lap over movements and activities and skills and capacities that are in real life. So yeah, I did the fitness thing for a while, and then I was also a teacher on the side. But then, I realized that probably we need to think on a bigger scale. So I went and retrained in public health and worked for NHS for a while. And then Jill and I decided to start working together around COVID because I think COVID really helped distill what was important to people. I think people realize that human connection and being outside and movement is really, really important. And that was kind of the genesis of how we started.
Okay, sorry, we've got two kids off school today with a vomiting bug, so they may come in at any point. So just to give you an idea of how Nature Moves works, we really focus on these kind of movement skills that we need so we can keep joining in. And our big focus for Nature Moves is to train up existing community groups so that if they've already got some access to green space, they're already maybe working on a gardening program or a walking program, they can add an extra sort of string to their bow. So we have an existing training package that's designed to help adults move with more confidence. It definitely doesn't look like a fitness class. So we're really, the people that we're targeting are people that maybe feel excluded from traditional fitness pathways. Most of the sessions are delivered outside and designed to be delivered outside. The green space required is very flexible. You don't need a huge amount of space. We do have rainy day options because obviously that does happen, particularly in the UK. And our big focus is on creating something that is flexible and inclusive and easy to embed in existing offerings. And these are the problems that we're seeking to address. A big one is loneliness, along with physical inactivity. A lot of us across the UK, many people face significant barriers to spending time outdoors, particularly in green spaces, and feel that green spaces are not a place for them. That also goes with traditional fitness spaces as well, may feel inaccessible. Um, we really target a kind of lack of confidence, a fear of injury and pain, which tend to be the biggest barriers to adults to getting involved in physical activity. And then as we see osteoporosis is on the rise as well, that's something that we seek to sort of weave into our bone density is a focus of a lot of our sessions. Okay, next slide, please, Andrew. So when we're working with nature moves groups, we are looking for organizations that want to build healthier communities. And normally those ones are already running something to do with green space in their communities, particularly, like I said, walking groups or gardening groups. Some charities working with older adults or intergenerational groups, and really anyone who wants to kind of add a physical activity kind of string to their existing offering. So when we created the program, we really looked at a few different models that we could embed into all of our classes. So we use Seligman's PERMA model, which is a kind of theory of well-being that suggests that we need positive emotion, engagement, strong social relationships, a sense of meaning, and a sense of achievement that we are moving towards something, that we're improving on something. We also embed this COM-B behavior change model, which is a really useful model. And I'm sure if you're working at community level, you're already aware of it, but it's a really useful way to identify the capabilities that already exist in your community, the opportunities that are already there, and the motivations and how we can combine those to reach that target behavior in this case, which is physical activity and social connection. Um, and then a lot of the movements that we embed within the sessions really promote capabilities and confidence. So we look at grip and carry strength, confidence in everyday movement, solving movement challenges, that ability to be able to sort of dynamic balance and respond to the environment around you and novel situations that you might find yourself in. Go into the next slide. I mean, I think you've got this by now, but we really trying not to be a fitness class. This feels very different. It's much more when we talk about task-based or challenge-based movements, it's about working in pairs or in small groups to have a chat and enjoy the movement and then come up with some creative solutions. So when you are learning to facilitate an H moves group, we really shift away from this idea of a coach at the head of a class who knows all the things, and it's more when you think about the sort of we talk about the guide on the side. So it's creating these situations where you feel safe enough and confident enough to try something in partners and kind of figure out different solutions that work well for you. Next one, Andrew. And that's just some pictures of some of the groups that we've been working with, and that using that task-based challenge, which really removes the idea of a right or a wrong way to move, which I think a lot of us have kind of embedded within us, that general fear of doing something wrong. Just quickly on how what a class looks like. We always have a bit of social time at the beginning. That could look like a question, or it could just look like a kind of general chat. It's a really nice way to, check in with everyone to see who's there, notice who's not there, and make sure that they've been followed up with. We'll always have a why on why we're doing this current session, what the format of the class looks like, which movements we're focusing on. We'll have a group warm up, and then we get into these peer coaching or partner challenges where we spend time in small groups working on different challenges or problems. And then at the end, the kind of capstone will be some kind of game that brings it all together. And that can work really well if we have people within the class that maybe have been struggling with confidence. You can really see a completely different side of them at the end of the session where they're just focusing on the game and the fun and they're not really thinking about the movement. Okay, so this is how we work with community groups at the moment. We have a fairly flexible model, but generally we look to partner with organizations. So we give you 2 days of in-person training, which Andrew and I deliver together. And then after the training, you have access to our online coaching pathway, which Andrew will go into. You've got access to group calls going on and the use of the Nature Moves branding. But really, at the moment, we are looking for organizations that have some kind of green space or access to green space already and they've got some kind of community doing something within a green space, because that means that the Nature Moves model can really slot in quite quickly, and we can just add capacity for you, but it doesn't mean that you're completely reinventing a whole new thing. You can just add it into your offering.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the training course. As Jill alluded to, I think that one of the limitations that or barriers that people face is they think, oh, I don't know if I'm the person that should be running some sort of outdoor movement group. And one of the things that we really try to stress is that this isn't meant to be exercise. It's not what sometimes is called, prescriptive exercise or movement coaching, where you tell people exactly what to do. Our big emphasis is that for the facilitators, really what you're doing is you're trying to set up an environment that invites people to challenge themselves and try different movements. So, Jill said, really thinking yourself as more the guide on the side than the sage on the stage. And we borrow a lot from learner-centered teaching and student-centered teaching techniques, which means that whoever's facilitating the class doesn't need to be in the front. You don't need to be the font of all knowledge. It's really just someone who likes spending time with people, likes having a good time, likes socializing, and just thinks of different ways that they can use the environment and different ways that they can design games and activities that can help people just try all different kinds of things. So the in-person training is over 2 days, and day one we really just talk about this idea of movements for life, where we just get people thinking outside of just the exercise lens, but also thinking about everyday movements um, and all the little details that go into a flourishing community. So Jill was talking about PERMA, but in PERMA, one of the R stands for relationships, and it's about building relationships and not just financial transactions, not just putting people in a situation where they're receiving a service, but really getting people to think about how good it is to do things for other people, how good it is to have other people who can help you, and feeling like if you show up on that day, it makes a difference as opposed to just sort of passively receiving a fitness class. We talk about different ways to think about identifying limitations and barriers for older populations or other underserved populations, and really how we can think about making activities inclusive and accessible. Um, and then throughout the entire game, we give examples through different practical movement and games and have people think about games and playful activities and looking at the environment and seeing what opportunities there are in the environment to move in different ways. Day two, we really focus on building the confidence for the facilitator. The day is pretty much all practical, just getting out there, trying out different games that we provide, experimenting with different toys and different bits of the environment, and really just sort of troubleshooting and see what is it like to kind of create this environment where you can invite people to move and have a good time and chat and not think of exercise as something that needs to be done, but looking at as just a part of your life where you can enjoy yourself and engage in the environment. And then we spend a lot of time sort of reflecting on what we've learned and Q&A sessions. After people have completed the in-person course, then we also have individualized live feedback sessions where once they get some practice delivering, we'll check back in with them, see how it's doing, kind of come up with some goals or a game plan for them so they can get ongoing support. And then a big part of the post-course support is what we call the Nature Moves pathway. And so much of what we do is what's task. It's called task-based activities, as opposed to rules-based. And what we mean is what we try to do is we try to think about, well, what are the different skills and capacities and movements that are useful for people, especially as they get older, or maybe if they haven't had the opportunity to move as much as they'd like to. So, for example, getting over and around objects, getting from A to B, picking things up and carrying them, working in dynamic balance, working on things like throwing and catching and picking up and reaching. And the good thing about these kind of movements is these are all the movements that make for fun games, and these are all the movements that have direct transfer to real life. So for the Nature Moves pathway, we have it designed where we have a series of different lessons that aren't based on movements like squatting or pressing or things like that. They're based on different skills and capacities. So games around picking things up and moving, games around obstacle courses, ways we can do floors, lava, and things like that. And in the pathway, we have all the videos, the guides, Q&A, troubleshooting, additional modifications, additional games based on that theme, because the idea is that once people finish the course, they're still going to want additional feedback and help. And they also have access to the Circle platform, which is sort of like an in-house kind of social media platform where you can talk to other facilitators, get ideas, people can share best practices and things they've discovered and, cool uses for something they found in a skip so they can go ahead and bring it into a class. I'll let you jump back in for this
Yeah.
bit.
So at the moment we've got 13 Nature Moves groups, and they all work slightly differently depending on what the community's needs and capabilities are. As I said, we've got a different, yeah, we've got gardening groups, nature connection, walking groups. They tend to be our sort of go-to. Next slide, please, Andrew. I've put on here different FAQs. We did have a thing on costings, but I must be on the other webinar. In fact, we will go into after Rick's presentation, we'll go into ideas for fundraiser for funding either Nature Moves or Path or ParkPlay. So we'll get into costings at the end. That's one, Andrew. There we go. And you'll have access to these at the end as well. So if you want to read the case studies, those are quite nice to read. There's some nice anecdotes in there. And then I will hand over to Rick. There's a little QR code you can get in touch with us by email. But what we'll do now is we'll switch over to ParkPlay, And at the end, we're going to go over the two main barriers that most community groups have when they want to introduce a new program. One is funding, and two is working with volunteers and recruiting and keeping hold of volunteers. So we'll address those two after Rick's, but for the moment, we'll pass it on to Rick. And then if you've got questions as we go, do just put them in the chat and we'll have 10 minutes or so to go over them at the end. Rick, where are you?
Cool. I'm here, yeah. Jill, Andrew, thank you very much. And hello everybody. It's great to be talking to you today, and particularly to be kind of following on from Jill and Andrew talking about nature moves, because ParkPlay has lots in common with nature moves, particularly in the problems that we're trying to solve and the approach that we are trying to take to allow people to come together, to connect with other people in their communities in a very different way and be more active outside, but through something which is quite different from particularly your kind of traditional exercise and sport. I'll talk a bit more about that in a second, but I am just going to hopefully share a short film which has a bit of sound, which will give you a much better idea of what ParkPlay is about. ParkPlay is 2 hours. Oh, hopefully this works. ParkPlay is 2 hours of free, active community games every Saturday for people of all ages. Everyone's invited.
It's great to see a whole mixture of people, right the way from toddlers all the way through to grandparents.
Best thing coming to ParkPlay is my son, I would say. My son was a bit shy, he was not open. Now he's totally different. We have to tell him, go back home. I have seen kids, those who don't want to walk, don't want to run, now they don't want to stop.
People are scared a lot of the time to go into parks. They're worried about crime and antisocial behaviour, and being able to set up in a park in an area where you feel secure, you feel happy and you're surrounded by good people. Only good can come from that.
Relationships are one of the key things in helping people with their mental health, and encouraging people to be outside. Exercise is another great thing for mental health. The more you move, it just gets all those endorphins going. It makes you just feel better.
If you can get a little bit of exercise in while you're laughing, everything's getting there, you know, your mental health and your physical side.
There's an assumption by some that ParkPlay means kids. Well, it does to some degree, but actually we have just as many adults. I know for a fact they enjoy it just as much, if not more.
I feel more energetic and I feel so happy.
Home or work, we are quite stressed. Here we don't have any stress. We can feel like as a kid.
We forget so much how to play, and we forget because we've all got an inner child.
I have lived in this community for 30 years. I've met more people coming along and doing ParkPlay than I've really done in all that time. And I think to me that says what a potential this has to bring communities together.
Imagine ParkPlay in thousands of parks with millions of park players. Imagine a society playing, connecting, and the happier, healthier communities it builds. Cool, right. I'm just going to bring up some slides as well. So if you bear with me for 2 seconds, I'll just share my screen, and I'll put this up on and make that full screen. So just give me 2 seconds. There you go. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of sense of what ParkPlay is about. And again, similar to Nature Moves, we're trying to solve kind of some similar issues. So, and I'm sure this will resonate with a lot of you. You know, what we see in society today, a lot of people feel very isolated. A lot of people feel very disconnected from their communities. A lot of kids spending too long on screens. And as a result of that, we have a lot of people who are very inactive and a lot of people who suffer from poor health. And we believe part of the solution to that is getting more people playing. Not necessarily through traditional sport, which serves a lot of people very well, but through more social, informal, for us, games and activities which help to bring people together and to promote health and well-being. And that's why we set up ParkPlay. So just to give you a little bit of background on me, I for a long time spent time in the kind of telecom sector, but had a bit of an epiphany when I had my daughter and wanted to do more in sport and physical activity. And what I have always benefited from in being more active is actually that I've met a lot of friends through it. I've felt more connected to my community, and ultimately I do it because I now luckily enjoy it. And that's always what we wanted to do with ParkPlay, was to bring something to communities that was sociable and enjoyable, in the belief that will help more people to lead a more active and healthier life, and to feel more connected to the people and the communities around them. So it's actually a really kind of simple idea, and in fact, the best way to describe it, and you kind of hopefully got a bit of a sense of that from the film. But actually, imagine if you went to your park or other kind of open space with your friends, family, neighbours, with a ball and a frisbee and a bat, and had a bit of a kick around on a weekend. And then imagine inviting other people, inviting other friends and neighbours, and maybe inviting other people in the park to come and join you. And then imagine doing that every week. And then imagine doing that consistently for a long period of time. That's kind of what ParkPlay is. And what we do is we just facilitate that, because as soon as you start doing that regularly, particularly in public spaces, obviously some things come along with that to make sure that it is safe and inclusive and it is welcoming to people, and that it can happen consistently, because we obviously improvements in people's health and improvement in communities happens over a long period of time. So it's a very simple idea. It's a free weekly session in a local park or green space. It's designed specifically to be active and inclusive, so that the games can be played by lots of people of very different ages and backgrounds together. Literally think of games of tag, jumpers for goalposts, football, games of quick cricket, all kinds of things like that. Very, very simple, non-competitive, with very, very few rules. It is also then a safe and welcoming place for people to connect and enjoy themselves. So it is something which, where anybody can come down and can meet other people, and where there is no agenda other than people having fun and enjoying themselves. And most importantly, is something that's run by local people for the benefit of that community. So we exist to support communities to set up their own ParkPlay event, and for that then to be run by local volunteers. So what does it kind of take to make it happen? So ParkPlay just needs three relatively simple things, which can sometimes just take a little bit of time to bring together. So it obviously needs a place. And actually, that can be really flexible. We've got ParkPlays that have started on the grounds of on the playing fields of schools. We've got ParkPlays in kind of public parks. We've got ParkPlays on housing estates on relatively kind of small areas of ground. We've got ParkPlays that take place on muggers and other areas. So it needs a relatively small but safe space where ParkPlay can happen every single week through the entire year. ParkPlay, actually, now our video is slightly out of date because it said Saturday. Actually, we've got ParkPlays now that happen on Sunday. We've got ParkPlays that happen in the week as well. It just needs to be in a place that can happen consistently through the whole year, including through the winter when obviously light is more of an issue. It needs a small team of people. So we say a minimum of 3, ideally a couple more, but it only needs a small team of people who we call play leaders, who we help to provide the training with, so that they can make sure that the event that is happening every week happens and that it is safe and welcoming and inclusive. And we support those people then to put on their ParkPlay every week. One of those people becomes what we call a play director, who is the person who's taking overall responsibility and is the main connection to our team. And then anybody can help. So it's very much a kind of a community event where anybody can get involved and help in all kinds of different ways, adults and children. And we're going to come and talk a bit about funding with Jill and Andrew in a second, but just to give you a sense, ParkPlay requires a one-off setup fee of £5,000. There is no ongoing charge after that, and we'll talk a little bit about how ParkPlays have been funded and about how we can help with that as well. So that's all ParkPlay needs to happen: funding, a small team of volunteers, and a place to play. Just to tell you a little bit about what we do, we give a lot of support to community groups of people who want to establish their own ParkPlay. First of all, and we do a lot to kind of guide people through the process, and particularly then to guide through the point of people being trained and then actually starting their ParkPlay. But just to give you a little bit of a sense of some of the things that we provide on an ongoing basis. So one of the main things is that we give access to our app. We call it our Team Hub, which all of the volunteers have access to, which has all of our training on it, also the online training element of it. It has all of the games and activities on it. It has lots of resources and guides for people to use, both in the lead up to a launch and then once the ParkPlay's got established. And it's also a means of connection to the network of communities, the network of volunteers around the country. So that is our main way that we provide our training, but also provide ongoing support and guidance to groups around the country. We also provide a lot of help with, as I imagine, with safety and safeguarding. So we provide insurance, we do risk assessments before any ParkPlay starts. And we are there, obviously, to support anybody if anything was to go wrong, including advice and support with safeguarding. ParkPlay is a very safe environment. We've had very few issues so far. Children under the age of 14 can't come without a parent or guardian. It's very much a family, and I mean that in the broadest sense of the word, experience. And it's outdoors, so it's a very safe environment generally. But that is something that we provide ongoing support with. It's something now that we've taken to over 100 communities all over the UK. So we've continued to refine that and continue to improve that and improve the way that we support volunteers. And we also provide obviously a lot of resources for every single ParkPlay. So we provide all the equipment and the branding and the promotional materials and lots of other support. So hopefully everything that a community group would need, other than the people, to help make a ParkPlay a success. There's a small team of us that then help every single ParkPlay through the launch, up to the point of a launch and beyond. And also obviously gives people the sense of doing something brilliant in their local community, but also to be the part of a bigger national movement. So very much like Jill and Andrew with Nature Moves, we're really interested in helping bring ParkPlay to existing communities and to working with these existing groups. So hopefully what it brings to, or could bring to your community, is a great way for people to play and come together in a local kind of green space, in a welcoming and low pressure way for people of all ages. It could be something which obviously adds to what you're already doing and the way you're already connecting with your communities, and new ways for people to volunteer. We have volunteers of all different ages and lots of people, lots of children and teenagers who also help. So it's a great way for new people to get into volunteering. And also it's something which can bring the whole community together, of all ages and of all backgrounds. Just wanted to share a quick couple of examples with you. This is a ParkPlay that started relatively recently. I say recently, actually, it's 10 months ago, actually, in High Wycombe, in Buckinghamshire, for those of you who know the area. What I particularly wanted to bring out about this is that Booker ParkPlay is run by a group called the Women's Cultural Arena, who haven't really been involved in anything to do with sport and physical activity at all, as the name suggests. But have really kind of deep connections with the communities in a particular area of High Wycombe, and really wanted to do something else and to be able to offer something else to engage their community and to help to promote the health of people in that area. And they have, this is actually slightly out of date, they have already launched their second ParkPlay. So they've now got 2 ParkPlays in the High Wycombe area. And secondly, Harwich ParkPlay. So Harwich is on the Essex coast. That's now been running for over 3 years. We've got ParkPlays actually that have been running for almost 5 years. We're about to celebrate 5 years next month. They've had lots of people, over 2,000 people have come to ParkPlay. They've got quite a small team, but it's a brilliant addition to the things that they do in what's called the Lighthouse, which is their kind of community centre. And it's helped them to engage a whole range of new people with the centre and the other things that they do within the Harwich community. So that's all I wanted to share about ParkPlay. I hope that's given you a sense of what ParkPlay is. A brilliant free weekly event. A little bit of a sense of what it takes to kind of get one started and the way that we support all of our communities.
Thanks, Rick. That was really good. I think it would be good to spend a couple of minutes just talking about these 2 bits, about funding and volunteers, and then we can go into questions. So I think it would be good, Rick, because you've got more experience of working with volunteers. If you want, should we start on volunteers? Because I know that a lot of the groups that we're working with at the moment, they are using their staff are delivering nature moves. So then at the moment they're not at the point where they're bringing in volunteers to train them up to deliver nature moves, but some of them are thinking about it, and some of the new groups we've got coming in will be. I guess it would be good to just quickly talk about that because I know that you've got quite a large volunteer network.
Yeah, so I've got about 400 people now that we have trained actually to be play leaders, but also a lot of other people are volunteering in lots of other different ways as well. I think that what we have, I mean, we certainly know there are lots of there's a bit of a in the UK. There's a bit of a I'm not sure crisis might be the too big a word for it, but it's very challenging to encourage people to volunteer. What we're trying to do is we're trying to really kind of break down the barriers to that and make volunteering something which is really simple to do and give people really easy ways into helping their park play. Everybody can have access to our app with all the games and activities on it, and there are lots of ways that the community can get involved in, and in fact anybody that comes to ParkPlay get involved in their event being a success. I think in the first place though, obviously because establishing any ParkPlay requires some people to volunteer in the first place. What we try and do is just make sure that people understand that actually, firstly, that we're really here to support them. We will literally kind of hold their hand through the kind of process and provide them with all the support and the training that they need. And I should have mentioned that some of our training is on our app, but also we also do in-person training as well, particularly in the run up to and at the point at which any ParkPlay launches. So we're here to support them and give them everything they need, but also it's something that can be shared. Actually, not only shared amongst a group of people, but also can then be shared with the wider community once the ParkPlay is established. So, because the challenges that we find particularly are people concerned about the commitment that they might be making, particularly for something that might seem quite kind of open-ended, that there's going to be a lot of responsibility on their shoulders and that they might be liable in some way should anything go wrong. So what we're trying to do is trying to overcome both of those by emphasizing the lots of the different ways that people can support, can help, get involved, that we're here to support them and that they can do it as a part of a team, and therefore it's not something that they're making a significant open-ended commitment to.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess if people have got questions about volunteers, it might be a good time to ask for those questions while we're on it.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
No, I think it's useful. It's kind of
okay.
Keep us on point. Yeah, if anyone's got specific questions, I think the ones that come to us generally are about training up a volunteer, and then if they kind of disappear quite quickly, and then how you kind of and also if you've trained up a group of volunteers, how do you sort of keep them feeling part of it and wanting to keep coming and wanting to keep joining in? Do you have any I guess case studies or tips from that, Rick?
Yeah, well, we on the first, we haven't found that's happened a huge amount, luckily, because I think first of all, we try and make sure that there is enough people who have a reasonably kind of strong commitment in the first place, and then obviously if one or two people do decide it's not for them, that's not the end of the world. So we haven't found that to be so much of a problem for the ParkPlay itself, but also I'm sure that we'd find this with nature moves, that actually it's really fun. It's really enjoyable for ParkPlay, particularly. People can come with their own families, they can come with their kids. There's not what they're not doing. And again, I think it's probably, I can't talk for you guys, but what they're not doing is they're not, I think you said the sage on the stage, I think was the phrase you guys used. Again, at ParkPlay, people are there to facilitate and support people. And actually they can therefore be participating and enjoying it themselves as much as anybody else. And so we find, I think in the first place, that is something the people enjoy it themselves, and therefore they want to come back. And actually what we find is quite often some people will say, well, we're going to share it and we're going to do 1 weekend in 1 week in 4, and then they find they're there most weekends anyway, because they were having as much fun and their kids were having as much fun as anybody. And sorry, what was your second question, Joe? I've forgotten.
I can't even remember. I think it was just on volunteer retention, I guess, and making sure they feel part of it, which
Yeah, well,
is what I'm saying.
yeah, and I think that's as much on us. I think what we try and do is make people help people feel that they're part of something bigger, that they're part of something which is very much local to them, and that they will, that they are, but they feel supported and they feel part of a bigger movement as well. And the onus on us is to provide them with the support and the resources and the yeah, and the show the love. I mean, we've had a very difficult. It's March and the weather's improving slightly, but we've had obviously in the UK a pretty pretty horrible wet winter. And so what we've been trying to do as a team is make sure that people, even if people aren't always coming in large numbers over the winter, that we're always supportive of them and the effort that they're putting in and the time that they're putting in as volunteers. So that if they're out there on a wet, windy February day and only a few people are coming, that somebody is recognizing that the effort that they are making and that they will be rewarded come the spring and summer when more people come down and they'll get the benefit of the of seeing more people coming to an
Yeah.
event that they are hoping to be part of.
Okay, I think we'll go on to funding because I think that's the big one. I, I know I didn't put in our slide about our costing. So we charge slightly differently to ParkPlay in that we charge per facilitator. So it means that smaller community groups can come on. The headache for us is that we need to obviously cover our costs. So for Nature Moves, for individual facilitators is 900 if you're in an organization, but we have to have a minimum number of facilitators. So generally, let's say that we've got a small group in wherever, Sunderland or something, who want to do it, we'll try and reach out to other existing organizations so we can train them all at the same time because our training is in person, whereas ParkPlay am I right in thinking it's mostly online?
Yes, it's mostly online in the first place, and then when we actually get to the point of having a team of people that have done their online training, then we consolidate that with some training in person either before or at the launch of the event.
Yeah, and so what we're doing, well, what Wild Strong is doing at the moment, so we've been trying to set up a charitable arm, which will then cater for all of the Nature Moves working with community groups. That takes a while to establish. So at the moment, if we've got existing community groups who want to come on and bring Nature Moves to their group, we have a few ways of doing it, and it slightly depends on where you are in the country. In England, it's much easier than it is in Scotland. In that there's the movement fund, there's a lottery fund, I can't remember what it's called. Rick, you might be able to jump in on that. But we can work with fundraisers, and I guess that's the same with you, Rick, as well. So there are fundraisers out there who will fundraise for your organization. The way that we do it at Nature Moves is that we absorb the cost of the fundraiser. I don't know how you do it at ParkPlay.
Yeah, we would do the same.
Okay, so if it's something if ParkPlay or Nature Moves is a project that you want to bring to your community group and you need help with access to funding, we can work with a fundraiser and then they take a percentage of I think it's normally about 10%, isn't it? And we absorb that cost rather than you having to absorb it. In Scotland, it works slightly differently because we don't have the movement fund and it's a bit more piecemeal. But there's a lot of climate funding coming out at the moment, looking at movement and physical activity as well. The problem with funding, as I'm sure a lot of you be aware, is it's all very piecemeal at the moment and there's not a huge amount of it to go around. So that's why we're working with fundraisers. Have you got anything else to add on funding, Rick?
Well, I would just say that I suppose that for us, I mean, we've launched now over 100 events, and in the vast majority of cases, that initial cost has been funded by a local authority or an active partnership, or they have helped secure the funding. So in the first instance, we would help any group at least explore that option. And if it's in an area where we already have really good connections, then that is may well be possible, or they may know of other sources of funding that could be applied to. Some groups are obviously themselves very well used to applying for funding, and so could do that. But as you said, Jill, if then we were looking at other options, then we would certainly help either ourselves or through a dedicated kind of fundraiser who could help to secure some of that funding. And actually, in some of the target areas that we have in the UK, where if you look at our map, where we've already got quite a lot of Park Play events, we're already applying for funding to grow Park Play in those particular areas. So I suppose my message would be the for us, and that's why on the slides I said, if you've got a place and you've got a group of people who want it, then actually usually the funding can be found. It's not. I think for both of us, it's not. It's not not a huge amount of money, and also it's a one-off cost. So it's something that once that has been secured, that for us, ParkPlay then can continue for many years to come. And we are, in the cases of the first ParkPlays that we set up in early 2021, we're about to celebrate 5 years of those events and 5 years of people coming down and the positive impact that's had on individuals and on communities.
And I was just going to say, I know we've got quite a few national charities that we're talking to at the moment, and they have more barriers to funding because normally the funding is very localized. So generally, it is a little easier to access funding if you're a community group. You can find funding that is local to you. And you're right, yeah, Rick, that's a good point. Getting in touch with the local authority or the active partnership if you're in the south to find out what funding pots are available at the moment and whether either Nature Moves or ParkPlay would fit into those. So there's not a one size fits all. Anything else on funding before we go to questions? There's a few in the chat.
No, I don't think so. No. If you don't mind, I'm just gonna leave it quickly. I forgot to mention,
Yeah, on you
forgot that
go.
that slide should have come. If anybody is interested, then please, you can go to our website, park-play.com/start, which also has a form which you could fill out, which would let us know if you're interested, and we'll obviously be in touch. But you can also just email us at hello@park-play.com.
Great, and I'll share all these slides and your contacts as well to everyone that's registered. Okay, so we'll just go into the questions. From Diego, interested to know how you help set up funding. Do you feel like that got answered, Diego? Because I know that came in before we started talking about fundraising.
Yes.
And okay, and Francis as well. I think hopefully that you felt like that got answered, but let us know if you didn't. And then from Yasser, did volunteers help design the sessions? Is that well, Rick, you could talk about ParkPlay and then I can speak about Nature Moves.
Yeah, so absolutely, yes. So what we do is we kind of train people in in two ways really. Firstly, is to giving a bit of structure to the session so that it can be welcoming for people. So we deliberately design it so that everybody can get involved right from the outset. And then also in how to adapt it. So how to adapt it for different people at different ages, different sizes of groups, different and so on. But actually then exactly what people play, how they play it, when they play it is really up to the individual community. And the brilliant thing about ParkPlay is that every single one is quite different. So that the ethos and the vibe feels the same. But actually what people do and how they do it feels quite different. And a ParkPlay in Southall in West London would feel quite different to a ParkPlay in Easington up in the northeast, or in the Ribble Valley up in the northwest. So yeah, they're all very different and very much led by the people that attend and what they want and how they want to do it, and it's pretty informal as well anyway. So yes.
Andrew, do you want to answer that question about do volunteers help design sessions? I imagine each area is slightly different from the last.
Yeah, I mean, my answer would be very similar to Rick's because our philosophy is very similar. We really try to give people the building blocks and the foundation. So, we have an initial cycle of lessons where people can kind of sample different activities and skills and game styles and things like that. And then what we try to do is give them ongoing support. One of the things we really talk about is kind of developing this eye for like helping design new games or even just looking around your environment. I said it earlier, but I get some of my best equipment from skips, like bits of wood and other like little interesting things that could be obstacles. So just kind of giving people the ongoing support so they can think about what is meaningful to their community and what kinds of activities resonate well with the needs and expectations of the community. So I would say at first we try to give support, and quite a lot of structure. And then the goal is that over time, as facilitators gain confidence, they can sort of play around a little bit and stretch in different directions.
Um, does that answer your question? Yes, sir. I mean, let us know if it doesn't, we can put it in. Okay, thanks. Another, just looking at these comments. Would any other partners need to be involved, e.g. community safety? Rick, do you want to field that for ParkPlay?
Yeah, I mean, so it kind of depends a little bit where it might be situated. And so I mean, quite often park plays are in kind of public parks that tend to be owned and managed by the local authority. So we would obviously always get permission from the local authority, and then quite often there would be we would, although any incidents or kind of safeguarding issues would be reported to us in the first instance, then we would obviously report them and work with any authorities as and when would be needed to in that particular area. So yes, there's always the involvement of the landowner, and sometimes that might extend to other kind of local groups. But again, that's something that we'd look on a case by case basis, and we would always help manage in the appropriate way.
Yeah, a fairly similar answer from us. Also, most of the groups that we're working with currently, because we're not setting up a whole new community, most of them are already embedded with the community, so we'll normally work with them and they'll have existing practices. But yeah, we do go through that. It tends to be, it's quite depending on which communities we're working with, we have to kind of change things a little bit. I'm thinking particularly about in South Manchester, they're working with South Asian women's group, and so the space that they're using is very private, and other people can't access it. So that there's different things to think about for each community. Another one from Yasser. Do you do any consultations with the wider community before starting an initiative? Yeah, so again, this is sort of on a case by case basis. Most of the nature moves that we have now, we've been approached by community groups that have asked for something to do with physical activity, and so it's coming from them. We don't typically work with local authorities first or active partners first, where it can sometimes feel like a thing is being done to you. We normally respond to community groups. That's not always the case with active partners and local authorities, of course, and I know that they're very good at doing consultations. But Rick, I guess you guys are changing a bit. So you used to do quite big community consultations, but now I guess you're working more with community groups. Has that changed a bit?
Yeah, I mean, but I suppose it's similar to you, Jill. I mean, that it might be that a local authority might have done that consultation and thought that actually ParkPlay might be an appropriate initiative in a place, but ultimately it's always got to be something, whatever the genesis is, it's always got to be something that community want and they want to own, and that there are people who want to be part of it and who want to be, ultimately who want to own it and run it, and because that's what ParkPlay is. So yeah, I think the same as you, Jill. Either that may have happened, or actually that initial impetus would have come from the community or an already established group.
I think it's worth saying as well, like we're a much smaller organization than you, Rick. But if you asked a community, they'd very rarely say we want a nature moves, because they don't know what a nature moves is. And I think similar for ParkPlay, I think a lot of people would say we want a park run because we know what it is. I think when in looking at the consultations, we've had conversations with local authorities and they've said, well, people haven't asked for an HMOs. I'm like, well, yeah, because they know what an HMOs is. But have they asked for something that engages more people in physical activity and social connection and getting them outside? In which case we would fit in that. So I think there sometimes can be how they do the consultation needs to be thought about.
Yeah, it's exactly the same with us. Yeah, very few people are going to immediately say we want a ParkPlay, but actually if the issues are the issues that we've talked about, that people feel there's not opportunities for them to get off screens and get out and meet people out in the fresh air and use parks better, and that people are want to improve their physical health but don't have those opportunities on their doorstep, and actually they want something which is, family based, kind of outdoor play. Well, that's kind of what park play is. And and if they want that to be a semi-structured weekly event, then we'd love to work with them to establish that.
Yeah. And I've got one from Beth. There's a lot of funding available in Scotland. Beth, we need to talk. Especially through local authority, leisure trusts, wind farm, hydro compensations. That's true, actually. But are organisations in Scotland who aren't accessing funding just covering costs for themselves? Do you mean for existing groups, Beth? You can take yourself off mute if you like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ones we've got at the moment, so the ones we have in Dundee are funded through a climate hub, and they've got we're training up 6 organisations, so they get the training for free and the ongoing support for free. They are not getting they're not getting cover to cover the costs of them delivering it at the moment, so they're folding it into their existing offering. That's one example. Another example is we've trained up some down the coast from here, and they have then applied for funding latterly to cover the costs of them delivering it. So it's there doesn't seem to be one size fits all at all.
Grand, thank you.
Is that Rick? You're not in Scotland yet, but looking to be.
I'd love to be, definitely.
Well, there's lots of funding in Scotland. I think our problem, we fall through the gaps in Scotland because in Scotland the funding is on play, which is under 12 specifically, physical activity, which is mostly sport, and there's one other that we also fall through the gaps. But maybe we need to be looking at wind farm and hydro compensations. What's the cost of an H moves? So we charge per facilitator, so it's 900 per facilitator, but we have a minimum number of facilitators per course, which is 6. But that doesn't all mean that they need to come from one organisation, which does mean it's a bit of an admin heavy exercise for us, in that we'll normally, with the organisations we work with, say they've got 4 that they want to train up, we'll normally bring in other organisations locally just so that we can cover our costs to get down and do the training and come. Does Nature Moves include insurance? No, we fold that into the existing organisation. They cover the insurance ongoing, but it does include all the training and the kind of marketing support and all the kind of setup and the monitoring and evaluation sort of, what do I call, platform, so that you can keep track of who's coming and report on that as well to your funders.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just jump in and say that the way the certification works as well, it also opens up facilitators to access to different kinds of outdoor insurance that they might not have had access to before.
Did anyone have any other questions before we close the call?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Are you able
Can't
to hear
see
me?
you, but I
Great.
can. Yeah.
I'm a private individual, but I happen to work for the local authority as well. I'm interested in luxury interventions, so health promotion. I also already qualified level 2, level 3 fitness instruction. I've been running group exercise for 20 years, and I'm also an outdoor learning facilitator and play leader. Do you have any offer for people who are already, doing this kind of thing, or is it just that flat fee? Is it people starting from the same baseline?
I'm really struggling to hear you, Frances.
Sorry, I'm in an office.
No, it's Andrew, did you catch it?
Francis, I'm going to try to restate, I think, what I heard, and then if I got it right. You were sort of talking capacity as a private individual, but you also work in conjunction, I think you said, with the local authority, and you're already providing some outdoor activities, physical activities, perhaps nature therapy, I heard you say. And I think you were asking if there were opportunities for people to engage with ParkPlay or Nature Moves as an individual. Was that right? And not through local authority? Is that what I heard? Oh, you're muted again.
Not quite.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Nearly,
I'll lean
but
in.
not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah, nearly not quite so. I'm in a big office. So I do work for local authority in health promotion, and I do run my own exercise classes and in the lovely park in the local area. And it would be great to start something going without having to find a huge amount of money to start off. But is there any offering for very motivated individuals, or is it just for community groups?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yes, I mean, we do. I can speak for ourselves here, Jill, and you can jump in. We do have other ways of just working with individuals specifically. If you were interested in starting up a group at a community level, and there are sort of different angles. We have individual courses. So I guess our Wild Strong course is maybe more appropriate for individuals who wanted to have the tools to start their own communities. But then also we've had situations where people who are interested in nature moves specifically, if there's a training in their area, we've just allowed them to come on in as an individual. And there are models. So Nature Moves is always delivered free at point of service. And that's part of the consistency of the offering. But if someone wanted to do the training, say for Wild Strong, and just do something at a local community level, like in a garden or like a local park or something, but not under the aegis of a larger organization, that's definitely something we can do. And then is that right? Does that actually answer your question? I was still going off about, I think, 60% of. Okay, good. And Rick, I don't know if you want to jump in.
I don't have anything. No, nothing else to add to honestly, Andrew. But obviously, if anybody wants to get in contact separately, I'm more than happy to have a follow-up chat.
I'll add to that. Yeah, we've got an in-person course that we run through Wild Strong, and from that you can choose whether you want to go on and certify as a Wild Strong coach, or if you want to certify as a Nature Moves facilitator, and that's more focused on individuals running sessions in their local area. That if you're not coming through an organisation, the Nature Moves specifically stipulates that the sessions that you run at local level are free at point of user, and that's all set up so that local organisations can run those. You can come through the training and offer classes that are playful and movement based that you can't call Nature Moves, but you can charge for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the monetisation. I'm just interested in using the local facilities in the local community.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. And quite often, our only problem at the moment is because when we run our Nature Moves courses, for example, in Dundee at the moment, we've got these 6 groups coming out. I don't know when the dates are going to be in advance. They tend to be really in a sort of, we work with the community groups to work on the dates that work for them. So we can't let people know months in advance, whereas with Wild Strong, I can let you know a whole year in advance when those dates are because that's under our umbrella. So what we'll do normally is if we've got groups coming on and we haven't quite got enough people in the training course, we'll let people know through our newsletter. It's a little piecemeal. It's not an ideal system, but at some point it'll be better. Great. Any other questions before we go? Is there any capacity or future dates on the Wild Strong training in Scotland? There is a Scotland training course every year in beginning of February. But there should be this Dundee one. I just don't have dates yet because we're trying to coordinate between the 6 organisations, and I'm going to say April some point. All right. Thank you very much for coming, guys. We will share the recording and the slides and Rick's contacts and our contacts. So if you've got any other questions about setting up either Nature Moves or ParkPlay in your community, please do get in touch. As I said, we're very happy to help you find local funding sources. It can be, they're sort of all over the place at the moment, so we'll work together on that. But yeah, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Really happy to speak to anyone. All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop recording.